fellow food service power plant network friends on LinkedIn. Happy Monday night. It's April Fool's Day. It's also, from what I learned this morning, National Trombone Day, I believe. And it's also, for all us food service people, National Sour Bread Day. So whatever you have the most fun with, I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you played a lot of trombone. Welcome to the Food Service Power Plant Network, our somewhat weekly conversation, our somewhat regular. Tonight, absolutely no joke, is the man, the myth, Brad Wasserstrom is joining us tonight. Super fun to have Brad. Of course, he is the FENS 2024 Dealer of the Year, the Wasserstrom Company, of which he's the president. So we're going to talk about that amongst a whole host of other things, getting to know Brad. A couple precursors. I'm coming to you from a hotel in Oceanside where Cal Mill is. I'm out here for the week. So fingers crossed, all works. Brad might have some storms in Ohio, so we're going to see how that goes with the weather. But we're going to have a blast, a couple of thank yous and a couple of reminders. First, thanks to the crew at Zumba, FENS Magazine, Brad and Joe and Dave and the whole crew, Nicholas, Sam, everybody, you're amazing. Thank you for helping make these conversations happen, both here in the Power Plant Network and also thanks for all you do for the industry. I can't wait. Like, the clock is ticking towards NRA and the gala where we get to celebrate the Wasserstrom Company and so many other achievement winners. So we're excited for that. And thank you for Crave, Chelsea, Eric, the whole team, Carolyn, you all are amazing. Thanks for all you do to support these conversations. The website, if you haven't seen them, all of the Power Plant conversations are on our website, a bunch, along with a host of other resources for you, fspowerplant.com. You are welcome to leave comments. You're welcome to ask questions. Whatever you have, Brad and I are happy to dive in with you. We're really glad to have you. Let's go find the man, the myth, Brad.
How are you?
Yo, brother, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. My phone's blowing up. Like, everyone wants to talk to me right now. I think they know I'm doing this, right? So they're sending me their questions. They're just going to usurp Jason.
Oh, well, I mean, if
they've waited so long, Jason. It's been so long. But who's counting? You know, it's 1,257 days since my last podcast with you. But who's counting, right?
I know. I'm so glad we're diving into part two. Here,
part two.
Pick up where we left off, Brad. You're one of the
That's
few
right.
two-timers.
I'm one of two-timers? What?
You're one of the few two-time guests.
Excellent. Excellent. Got to get to 5. I need that robe.
Okay. We'll shoot for 5. I love it. If I'm still doing this in the year 2030, then we're going to have accomplished it, because I think we've done 2 in 3 years now. So it's all good. It's great.
It's great to be here. Thank you. Always enjoy spending time with you.
I always love it, man. I'm going to start just with a quick question, because that isn't actually on the question I asked you originally, but it's a question I asked you when we were sort of pre-gaming here. And I loved your answer. And my question to you was a very simple one. It's one we ask each other all the time. And it was simply, yo, man, Brad, how was your day? And you answered in a way that took me by surprise, and I really appreciated. You said you don't really do day.
I said, when people ask me, I've kind of evolved to where I don't have good days or bad days. I have moments. And every day is filled with different moments. And some of them are very good, and some you're going to have some not so good moments. So today I had more good moments than bad, for sure. So however you want to measure it, I guess that's a good day.
I love that.
I had a lot of good moments today.
That's great. We'll chalk them up, count the good moments, and we'll call it a win. Huh?
Yeah.
I think it's cool, because oftentimes I think about when I ask my kids at night, you know, like, how was your day? And they're like, I don't know, or, you know, good or bad. To take a whole day and, you know, smush it into one defining thing must be hard. And I appreciate the paying attention to the really the details, that you don't have a whole day. You have a lot of little moments. And if you can count some good and some challenge, we'll call it.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that stuck with me after COVID, right? You and I talked during COVID a number of times, and I was always trying to find little silver linings so I didn't dwell on the horribleness of what was going on in our society. And so I would cling on to these little things. I came to realize, even in the midst of this horrible time, there were always little good things. And so then I'm now at a point where if I have something really bad happens first thing in the morning, generally by the end of the day, it's out of my system. So when I get home, when I'm asked, did you have a good day or bad day by my family? Generally, I'm thinking about the last couple hours is how I still feel,
Yeah.
right? I could process the rest, but how I feel. Now I have two teenagers in the house. So if I ask them if they had a good day or bad day, if I'm lucky, I get fine.
Yeah.
How was your
Right.
day? Fine. If it was a bad day, ooh, right? Just the grunt.
Yep. Very relatable. I get that too. I appreciate the moments. I think it makes us more. I don't know. It sounds like a more genuine answer. For some reason, we've got, I think, 45 people watching right now. Comments aren't coming through for me. I don't know why. So I'm going to keep paying attention to my phone, do my best to check that out. And yeah, we'll see. But know that you're welcome to comment or ask Brad or I questions. Let's go into something really fun, Brad. I imagine as a dealer, it's really fun when Maureen and Joe and the FNS team get ready to announce their dealer of the year. And this year, of course, it's your team. It's the Wasserstrom
Yeah.
company as a 2024 dealer of the year.
Well, hold on. I got to put a pin in that right there because it's really not the Wasserstrom company. It's Wasserstrom as a whole. The Wasserstrom
Okay.
company is a division within Wasserstrom.
Okay.
So it's Wasserstrom being honored, and my friends and associates and teammates at Wasserstrom and Sons, they're included in this, so I want to make sure they're included. So yeah, so Joe calls us up. He sends me a note, and I forget what had happened. Something happened in the industry. I bumped him a little message, say, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And then he said, "Yeah, by the way, I need to have a quick call with you. Could we have a call tomorrow?" And this was a couple days after we had submitted our numbers for the Giants list. So I thought maybe there was an issue that he wanted to ask me about on that. And I said, sure. And he said, it'd be great if your cousin could join us too, if Eric could join us. So, okay. So we pulled together a call, and it happened to be on a Friday afternoon, which was a great way to end that week, right? Talk about good moments. And he lays this out. It takes a second for it really to sink in. Like you hear it, but you almost don't believe it. And then it's off to the races. There's a lot of things all of a sudden internally that we're talking about how we're self-promoting internally for our people, how we want to position this as far as outbound and timelines. And then you've got the stuff for Joe Marine, the interviews, the pictures. It's great. It's the biggest honor in the industry, right? For a dealer. And to get it is really special. This is our fourth time, and we're the first four-time winner, which is extra special. We were the first three-time and the first two-time, and I'm not sure. We were the second winner. I think Gill Marketing won it the first time.
Okay.
Now, the secret is when this list was started by FE&S, Robin Ashton was a co-owner with Ken Gill. So I'm sure that had nothing to do with them winning it that first time. But anyway, I probably just aired dirty laundry. Anyway, Robin will never speak to me again. I'm sorry, Robin. Anyway, so we won it the fourth time, and it's great. And then I was asked, how does it feel? Is this one different? And there's a small piece of me that now understands when a coach says, when they've won multiple championships, they're all special, right? If they are, they're all different. This is the third one that I've been involved with. The first one was really my dad and my uncle Alan. It was their award. Eric and I were there to watch it. The second time was Eric and myself and my uncle Bruce. And this time was more Eric and I. And it's just, this one coming out of COVID is extra special, I think.
Yeah.
It was really difficult, that period of time for everyone. And, there was a short while where you had to question everything, including the go forward possibilities, right? That could be pretty dark. And once we got past that, in our company, we had this mindset, we're going to come out of this better than we ever were going into it. And that was really a focus. And this kind of validates in a lot of ways that happened. I'm not sure of the process, how they choose. I know there's a lot of vetting amongst people in the magazine and other industry veterans that they really appreciate. And what Joe said to us and Maureen said to us, it was just so respectful, the words we heard. And just, filled our hearts with a lot of joy that people look at us this way. And so it's great. And we'll throw a big party on May 18th. I hope everyone and all your watchers are there. And it's going to be a double party. We're this award, and it's also my father's birthday that night. So we're all going to be sure to wish him a happy birthday.
Happy soon to be birthday, Rodney. That is really cool, man. Listen, I love that in the midst of one of the darkest times, I think great companies decide this is how we're going to end up. And you don't know it, right? You've got no idea what's about to come your way. But you put it out there as a placard, as a placeholder. This is how we're going to get through this and who we're going to be afterwards. And look at you now. I love that you and your team decided this is where we're going. And I don't know what's coming, and I don't know how long this tunnel lasts, but here's how we want to come out on the other end. And here you are now, and it'll be a fun time to celebrate.
It'll be great. And, you hit on a key word there, which is team. Yeah. I've got a great team. I think my executive team right now is the best I've had in my entire tenure at Wasserstrom. And sometimes it's great to be good, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's really great to be lucky. And through a series of things, 3 of my officers came from Cardinal Health, the medical distributor. And they have a pharmaceutical side is what they're known for, but they also have medical devices. And the medical device part of their business is a lot like our industry in some ways, obviously different products and everything, but there's a lot of the way the model is built of the 2 industries has some similarities. So I have these 3 officers from the healthcare world. And when COVID happened, they very quickly knew we were going to need PPE, and they had sources to get it. And we had it ordered in early April, and we had it on our docks by the end of April. I'm not sure. I think we were probably, if not the very first, one of the very first to start selling PPE. And it's about the team. And once we did that, then that was the reset. And it's time to start rebuilding from that.
Yeah.
And we're not the same company that we were headed into it. There's a lot of similarities, obviously, but there's a lot of things about us that we've changed. And I think our clients all think it's for the better. I'm sure not everyone agrees, but
anything in particular that stands out to you that's different when you say we're not the same? And I hope our customers appreciate that. One thing in particular?
We have a real passion for looking inside ourselves and finding opportunities to be better. But it's all driven by, is it going to be better for the client? So we could go over here and fix some things, but if it doesn't make a difference to the client, who cares?
Yeah.
And so the thing that's similar is the passion we have for serving our clients. No one's perfect. We're certainly not, but I think we get after it like a ravenous dog when there's a problem, and we're going to fix it. And our clients know that you're in really good hands with Wasserstrom, because when things go wrong, and they will go wrong, there's just too many complexities in our world, that we will take care of it and make it right. Well, we have a continuous improvement group now. I think we're up to, I know for sure we have 3 people on that team, maybe 4. All they're doing is looking at how do we get better.
Wow.
And it's got to be things that translate into better service, better cost, something for the customer.
I absolutely love it. People looking for ways to keep getting better. I think that's what we hope for all of our organizations.
Yeah.
When you and I talked about this, your company, the Wasserstrom Companies, 122 years old. If we were to dive into the full history, we would be here till April 3rd having a conversation, knowing that we're in a finite time. Give us a brief synopsis about where did your family come from into food service, and how did you get from where it began to kind of where you are now?
So my great-grandfather was headed west. He got to Columbus. He had family here and started selling stuff off a horse-drawn cart up and down the streets of Columbus. And I don't know how many kids he had when he got here, but he eventually had 12 children. Okay. So to make ends meet, he started working at a bar at night, and then he bought the bar. And then in 1919, Prohibition, was it 1919? I think it was 1919. Whatever, Prohibition comes. Bad time to own a bar, right? So they shut down the bar and turned it into a store that sold Frankly, all the things you need to make beer at home. Now, skirted the law, I guess. Um, and we had that grew into into 12 stores around Columbus, and then Prohibition ended. That was not a good business model. They shut them all down, but one. Turn that into what we would call the modern version of a restaurant and supply equipment, food service equipment and supply store, and get into the 50s, the 40s and 50s. We bought a wood manufacturing company first, and then a metal manufacturing company. So that's how we got into manufacturing. And we had this. There were 9 boys out of those 12 children, and most of them were involved in the business in somewhat. So you had the ability to put people in other places and run it the way you want it to be run without computers, and you had trust and everything else. So then in the early 60s, the rubber kind of hits the road, and Dave Thomas moved to town from Louisville. He was working for Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he was sent here to improve the stores that were here. And there were, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 stores. So he comes to town, and his second day in town, he asked where you go for restaurant supplies. His employees told him Wasserstrom. He comes to our store, and he met my dad right then and there. And he shops with my dad. They hit it off. He says, "Now I'm going to take this. You come out to my store, and I'll pay you." And we'd never issued credit to a customer before that moment. So on a handshake, my dad let him go with $25 worth of supplies. This is 1963. So $25 is not what $25 is now. And my dad went and got the check, and that started off their friendship. In the late 60s, Dave came to him and said, "I'm going to leave Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm going to open up a burger place. I'm going to name it after my daughter, Wendy." And he thought if he was really lucky, one day there might be 10 restaurants. Obviously, there's a few more than that. But as you go through the 70s, my dad and my uncle like to say Columbus, Ohio is almost the Silicon Valley of the chain restaurant industry that was just starting. Yeah. You had Wendy's here, and Dave was bringing in these executives. We're shipping like 100 Wendy's a year, and Dave's bringing in these executives to help him run this. And a lot of them wanted to move up and do their own thing, so they would leave Wendy's and start up a chain. And so there were all these other chains around Columbus that were being started, and Wendy's would buy some of them back. Yeah. Sister's Chicken and Biscuits, Arthur Treacher's, Big Bite, G.D. Ritzy's. These were all spin-offs from Wendy's executives. And so it started showing us there was going to be this new model in the industry. And so we took a big part of our company and pivoted towards chains, or what today we call multi-unit, and spread our wings. And you fast forward to today, and we're in the multi-unit segments of hotels and grocery stores, convenience stores, healthcare, all types of restaurants, from quick serve all the way up through fine dining. We do the traditional dealer model of design build, and we do bid work out of that. And we do smaller chains and one-off restaurants. We've got retail stores. So we're really a full service dealer for anyone that comes from their very first food truck or stall or restaurant. We can help guide them all the way up through thousands and thousands of units, because we've done it. Wow. And we have different divisions then that focus on that. That's why earlier when we were talking, and Wasserstrom is our division that focuses on equipment for national accounts, as well as does all of our manufacturing. And then I've got the smallwares division for national accounts, as well as all of our traditional dealer functions.
Yeah. Holy cow. I didn't realize that whole story.
Yeah. And that was the short version. That was 122 years in like 2 minutes.
You did great, Brad.
Thank you. Every month, my CFO and I sit with our new hires, and we tell them the story, and we just let them get to know our company. And it probably unwinds over about a 10-minute period. I make sure to keep going until they're so bored that they can't wait to get back to work.
Well, talk about feeling, when you join your team, feeling a part of something that's big, that legacy, that history, that's pretty incredible. And how that story, you just never know the moments where you take a risk. Your dad, Rodney, takes a risk, right, on Dave, has no idea what he's in for. Did that work out? I'm sure a beautiful friendship was born, and look at you all today. So, congrats. I love it.
Thank you.
You just shared your family's kind of legacy, 4 generations of legacy within the food service industry. Um, as the 4th generation, as the person, you and Eric get to run this. And today, I'm sure there's both gift and blessing, and it's awesome. And I'm sure there's also burden tied to, being the 4th generation person running it and holding up the legacy and all of these things. Do you mind sharing? It's kind of a vulnerable question, but what's one of the gifts, one of the blessings, and what are the burdens
Well, the gift was easier to come up with, honestly. It's that I get to work with my family every day to some degree. Now, some members of the family I don't talk to every day. We're in the business together, but they're in different buildings or even different cities. So I don't get to talk to them as much. But, I talk to my cousin Eric, I don't know, 3-4 times a week at least.
Okay.
But my dad is the capstone to all of that, right? To be able to work alongside with my dad for all of these years and to have someone that I can trust who understands what I'm going through.
Yeah.
That's the true blessing. He and I have been able to forge a very unique and special relationship that most people will never get to have, right?
Yeah.
Because we've gone through battles together at work. We've seen successes. We've had some fails. And he's my mentor and he's my father. He's my friend. It's the greatest thing ever. Now, on the downside, as great as that is, there's got to be balance, right? The good side and the dark side always have balance. And on the downside, nothing is worse. And I've never worked for a public company, but I can't imagine Wall Street is worse on you than if you're having a bad period of time and you go into our family meeting and then you have to have dinner with your family afterwards, right?
Sure.
You have a bad October and you have your October meeting and then tonight is Thanksgiving or tomorrow night is Thanksgiving. That is really uncomfortable. It hurts. It's hard because you don't want to let your family down, right? Wall Street's a faceless bunch of strangers. And I get it. There's a lot of pressure in that world and I totally get that. But you really don't want to let your family down. Your cousins, your sister, your uncles, your dad. That's the worst. So there's a burden on there. And then we used to have this conference room in our old building. It was the boardroom. And my grandfather's generation, there were 9 boys, like I mentioned. 1 died in adolescence. So there were 8 boys that had gotten involved in the business. And there was an oil painting of these 8 gentlemen in this boardroom lining 2 of the walls. True story. I would only sit in one of the 2 end chairs because psychologically, I already feel like these generations are looking over my shoulders. I don't need the physical representation of these oil paintings, which I think the artist for Scooby-Doo did because the eyes follow you around the room. Totally serious. You can move around the room and the eyes look like they were following you. I didn't need that physical representation of them looking over my shoulders. So when we moved buildings, by the way, one of the first things I did, I had a conversation with my dad. And I said, Dad, the oil paintings are going in storage. They're not being hung in this new building. Eric has the same problem. He has a conference room where he put a picture of the Gen 1, Gen 2 family. So our great-grandparents and all of these aunts and uncles. And it's at the end of the room, and he will not sit where he cannot see them. So he has to see them. He will not put them to his back ever.
Wow. It's fascinating how you both look at it differently and approach it differently. I understand how you feel that, them watching over and just carrying that.
A family business is like the greatest thing ever, but the highs are higher than most and the lows are lower because it's family, right? And everything they say, blood is thicker than water. It's a real thing. And it's an honor to be in the position I am, to be, trusted with this responsibility of carrying on the legacy. And I know Eric feels the same way.
Well, you guys are doing a wonderful job. Here's our friend Maureen. Hi, Maureen. Read more. You can read more about Wasserstrom in the May issue of FENS magazine. Congrats to Brad and the entire team at Wasserstrom, our 2024 Dealer of the Year. Well deserved.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. I probably said thank you between her and Joe 100 times already, but I'm going to keep saying it.
Well, you can say it as many times as you want. It's great. We love them, Maureen. You guys are doing a great job. Great job. Talk about you carry, Brad. Here's what I'll say. By the way, my hotel room is on a street, kind of a busy thoroughfare, and motorcycles seem to be racing one another. Like maybe it's motorcycle night. So if you hear that, that's what it is.
I cannot hear them, but I do know the food holiday today is Soylent Green. Today is Soylent Green Day. If you have a food advent calendar,
well,
it's Soylent Green. I think because it's April Fool's Day.
okay.
I'm sure that's the thing. So I don't know about your motorcycles or motorcycle day. I do know it's Soylent Green Day. And by the way, I didn't take any offense that you asked me for April Fool's Day. I take no offense in that, Jason, at all.
Brad, I don't take you as a joke. I mean, I get a lot of fun jokes out of you, which I really appreciate. We'll get to being a deadhead later, but let's go.
Yeah, we'll talk about how you outed me on that last podcast.
Oh, so good. Holy cow. That is hysterical. I remember Soylent Green. Great movie. Hi, Kim Bernard's in the house. That's really funny. Claudia, man, I felt that. Appreciate the honesty of the family business. Our friend Claudia Harry, who worked with her dad for the longest time. Of course, the highs are high and the lows are low. Absolutely. Jack Veach, very funny. That was a good one. I love it. Let's talk real quick. You carry, Brad, something that I would think as, I don't know, as I connect with other industry friends and your name comes up. Every leader carries different qualities and sees leadership through a different lens and tries to motivate and move people in a direction via whatever capacities they choose. You carry, you're clear with vision. You carry a humility about you. There's just an observation from afar. There's not a ton of ego involved. It's very servant led. It's just my observation and from industry friends. Talk about leadership and a quality or a couple of qualities that you really work to emulate in that you think leadership should be defined by.
Well, you started stepping into a couple of your questions here. So we'll go to the leadership piece first.
Go there.
I lead with this mantra, and I don't know if I should say it. I don't want to spoil the magazine article that's coming out because I talk about this in there. I know I talked about this with Joe quite a bit, but everything I do starts with this. Hire great people. Make sure they understand the mission. Make sure they have the tools that they need to succeed. And then for the most part, stay out of their way. Right? I used to say just stay out of their way, but I've discovered I can't do that. I get too involved. I'm too curious about things. But I want people to feel like they have some ownership in their part of the business. And I can't do that if I micromanage them. So I make sure that people understand, here's where I want to go through the things we say, our incentive programs. Here's how you're going to make a bonus this year. I want you to work on these things. And through that, if everyone gets on the same page, and you can really, if you really have great people and you can get them on the same page, you can build something greater than a sum of parts. You can build a team. And a team is greater than all the people put together. They're accountable to each other. They're willing to put egos aside because they understand if we can make this successful, we all will be successful. We'll all share in that. So that's what I drive towards. It's hard for me. I naturally like to get involved in things. You give me a problem in a good spreadsheet and I could be happy for days. But that's not my role anymore. I've got an officer who keeps telling me I have to stay out of the sausage making. Now, I have to tell her all the time I'm Jewish. So I've never been into sausage making. But, that's another story for another day. They're trying to get me to focus on bigger picture things. And I do appreciate that. I just need to make sure that they're always going down the road between the guardrails where we want them to go. And let them go with it. And I think I've got a group that right now really does feel like they have some control over what they do. They can grow. I try not to put too many limits on people. I'll rein them in when I need to, right? No, you can't buy 1,000 fryers this week because we only sell 100 a month or whatever the numbers are. But I I want people to feel like I want them to feel their contribution as
Yeah.
much as me telling them. I want them to feel it, right? So we go through that, and at the end of every month, we go through these financial reports, and we talk about the successes and where we need to improve, and then we work on those improvements, and it becomes a feedback loop. It's pretty cool.
I think that's a really cool statement. I want them to feel their successes. I mean, the reality is, if you were deeply involved in everything and did people's jobs, they would not be able to walk away ever with a sense of pride. Or, there's this idea, I think it was Jack Canfield said, confidence is the result of surviving a risk. Well, if people aren't allowed to take some level of risk and work through it, then it's hard to build confidence, if they feel
Yeah.
like, well, someone else is kind of doing this for me. So, and it's a fine line as a leader, you're trying to keep them between those guardrails, like you mentioned.
And I really try hard. There's the give the man a fish he eats today, teach him how to fish, they feed for themselves forever.
Yeah.
I really try hard not to give them fish.
Hmm.
Right? I've been around long enough. I know a lot of the answers. I try hard not to, because I'm not right all the time by any means. In fact, the further I go into my career, the less I know about how things really work, because I'm not in that. And so I need to have a team that it starts with great people. It's all there. And then you can build on that. But if you don't have great people, you're only going to be as good as your weakest link.
Yeah. Really, really well said, Brad. I love it. This is our buddy Stuart. Hi, Stuart.
Stuart, how are you? It's been a while, buddy.
Hatco. Brad is much like his father, Rodney. He's very approachable and interested in the people he interacts with. I appreciate the fact that their door is always open. Stuart, you led us right into a great question. Brad, you talked about family. You talked about your relationship with your dad, Rodney. We all walk away with elements of ourselves from the people who came before us, either the people that raised us, positive and good and bad at times, right? Things we love, things we're like, oh, I wish I would have, and just people who helped raise us even outside of our parents, like just people who helped support us, etc. Let's talk about your dad for a minute. He was obviously an integral part to Wasserstrom growing. You and he are really, really close. Talk about what he means to you and what you learned from him.
Well, I mean, there's no words I can put other than what I said earlier about him, right? I mean, what he means to me is immeasurable. The biggest thing I probably learned from him. So there was this guy in Columbus. His name was Woody Hayes, right? You may have heard of him.
Yep.
He had a not great ending to a fantastic career, but he would always say, "You win with people," and that stuck with me. You win with people. You win with people. So it's all about great people at every level of the organization. I remember as a kid, a lot of Saturdays, he would ask me if I wanted to come with him, and he would, if he wasn't going to work, he would drive around town and we'd check on our different properties to make sure they were okay, whatever that meant. See if anyone was working. We'd walk in, sometimes say hi. And I remember we were going through our building one time, and the company must have been busy. I'm a young kid, but sorry, the house phone is going off. Anyway,
I love that you have a home phone.
Well, we do, because it's hooked up to our alarm, and I don't really need another cellular thing. It's better that it's bundled in my cable. Okay. But anyway, let's get off of that. So we go in, and there were a lot of people there that day. I don't remember why by any means, but I remember he knew every single person, and a lot of them he would stop and ask them something about their family. And I remember I asked him afterwards about that, and I said, "Dad, how do you know everything about all these people?" He said, "Well, they're the ones that make this happen. I have to make sure they understand they're all a part of the team. I can't do my job without every single one of them, including the janitor." And that really stuck with me. Now, it's harder now. We have 1,000 employees, and back then we had 100, right? So it's hard for me to get to, I don't know everybody. Some people cycle through too quickly and whatever. But that's probably the biggest thing. It's not only you have to have great people, you treat them all with respect.
Yeah.
Because there's not one single job in the company that doesn't rely on other jobs. and through that you build this web essentially that you all rely on each other. So by far that's the biggest one. It doesn't matter the computer systems we have. It doesn't matter how many miles of conveyor or whatever in the warehouses. It's always going to come back to people. AI doesn't matter. It's a tool, right? These modern things come out, they're tools. You're still going to have people that drive it somehow. And if you want to be the best, and I mean this sincerely, if you want to be the best, you have to have the best people. It's not about being the biggest. It's not about whatever. It's our company just wants to be the best and the most respected in the space. That's our vision statement on our wall. And that's what we're always striving towards. And that came from him. And our core values, it's easy for me to live up to them because I was born with those. It's just family, hard work, integrity, honesty, service. That's just the way we are. And it defines us.
You clearly he lives it and lived it, and so do you, Josh. Some great wisdom from this conversation. Our buddy Tim, Brad, and Eric have taken a legacy to the next level. They should be very proud. Yo, Tim, heck yeah!
Thanks, Tim. You can come in and get your purchase order tomorrow.
There you go. This is Gary. Hey, yo, Gary Cohen in the West Coast. My man. Brad confessed to me 20 years ago he was a fellow traveler. Once you're on the bus, you never get off and still manage one of the premier brands in the industry. I love it, Gary. Traveler,
Gary, it's great to hear from you.
Is that just you love being on the road?
No, I think he's referring to. I think he's referring more to my passion for the dead. But
the dead, got it. Okay.
I could be wrong. I'm on the road plenty. Maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't think that's what he's talking about.
I'm guessing you're right, Tim. Yeah, there you go. I hope it's a big one, Tim. I hope it's a big PO, man. Well played. You manage. Whenever I see a lot of people see it, you talk a lot about family. Your dad showed you. You asked people about family. Whenever I get to see you, we get to talk about, your wife and the girls and my family and everything. It's a part of who you are. It's part of the conversations you have with your team. It's hard to navigate running a really successful company in the industry, being present there and present at home and engaged at home. And in fact, it's a challenge for a lot of us to know, how do I do this? How do I be engaged in both? What are some things that you've experienced and any ideas or tips you have on being engaged both at home and at work?
Yeah. So in all honesty, this is probably one of my bigger shortcomings. And then in all honesty about what I just said, in all honesty, is I'm probably harder on myself than the reality is.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, I try to be at their activities. I try to engage. So I have one daughter who's in theater, and I'll go to her plays, right? I don't miss them. Sometimes I go multiple times because it's just a great. I'm getting distracted now with the deadheads. Okay, so anyway, so in Ohio, you have to take your kid driving for 50 hours before they can take their test.
Okay.
With Chelsea, I probably did 40 plus of those hours. With Emily, I'm going to do over 48 of them, 49, something like that.
Awesome.
I found that is great time. It's hard to find the time, but it's great one-on-one time that I get with them.
Yeah.
So I try to be present when I am here. Understand I've got teenagers who, at this point, don't want to be present with me. They want to go and do their own things and whatever. So I'm really trying to appreciate the moments we get. My wife is out of town this week. So last night I told them we're cooking dinner, the three of us, and we're going to have a family. They have their activities this week and they're out and about. That's the only night we had. So you just make sure you have it and, take your headphones off. Let's just sit and talk. And so I try to do it through that. It's not always easy. Things get in the way, and, whether it's travel or it's, long nights or whatever, I got to work tonight, keep up with stuff. But
Brad,
I know that I know that they'll appreciate when they get older the effort it took. It'll just take till they get older to understand.
Yeah.
I know now as kids, they're like, well, why can't we go do this? Well, I really got to get this done tonight. They'll understand that later.
Yeah.
Balance is tough. You and I have talked about it. It's the hardest thing in my life. It's easy to get swept up into the world of work because it never ends. I mean, email is like the worst treadmill I've ever been on, right?
Yeah.
But that's the world we're in. So you just got to deal with it.
I really appreciate the honesty in the answer, and I would second it. It is hard. And sometimes I think it's just about coming back to the intentionality of wanting to make it happen and choosing to make those moments. And you're right. We're probably all harder on ourselves than we need to be. But you know what? You keep choosing, Brad, to teach the girls the driving, or to take them to the Ohio State game, or to go to the concert, or whatever these moments are. You keep coming back to it. It's not perfect.
Right.
It's not seamless, but you keep choosing in those moments.
I would guess of people in my demographic, I've probably seen Taylor Swift more than 99% of others like me.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Way to be engaged right where they are. A challenge. We talk all the time on our show about challenges. We're all human. We all have things that feel like they set us back, moments that feel like we get knocked down, where we stand back up. But any moment in your journey that stands out?
So I've got two for you.
Yeah.
One was what drives me to continue to grow. I learned early on in my career, you grow or you die. A business that's not growing is dying.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a small division of the company, and we had two things happen at once. We had an industry slowdown. That happens. But we had hired a new business development person that wasn't working out. So they weren't backfilling the channel while the industry was slowing down. So we got real lean where we were. And, I had to, along with our shop manager, we had to look at people in the face. And first we were cutting their hours. And these, by and large, were a lot of people that were working paycheck to paycheck. So cutting hours is really difficult. And then we had to do some layoffs. And, unfortunately, I've fired people and I've laid people off. A layoff is much, much worse. In a layoff, the circumstances aren't anything you can control, but the person did nothing to deserve that other than they got on this list.
Yeah.
If people get fired, they fired themselves. But if you do it right as a manager, by the time you fire them, you've talked to them, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't either want or they don't have the capacity to do what you need them to do. So you move on. But we had this really tough period, and I just resolved then that, I don't want to do layoffs. I don't want to do that. So a strong selling sense is always there. Now, making sure you don't sell too much too fast. We have a highly complex set of customers that all want things done their way. So we have to be careful to not outgrow our capabilities, our ability to induct this business, and not screw it up for everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's that piece. The other one I would tell you is in I want to say 2013-ish, I had made the decision along with the person that was in charge of distribution at the time. We were going to try outsourcing our distribution to a 3PL. They made all these promises that they could do it at this much lower cost, and they were experts, blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, they failed miserably. And we lost more money that year than any time in my career.
Wow.
And it was on me, right? And it was fine. We figured it out. We put our heads together and said, here's where we're going to start rebuilding, and this is what we're going to do. And in about 18 months, we were back on the positive side of profitability, and life was good, and we learned a lot of lessons. The reason I bring that one up is I told my dad when COVID happened, and one point during COVID, he apologized to me that I had to go through this, right? It was unlike anything anyone had ever dealt with. And he even said, I'm of limited help to you because I've never dealt with this. This is the first time I was dealing with something in the business that he didn't fully comprehend the magnitude. And I said, Dad, it's fine. We went through this other thing, and I really believe that that thickened my skin and got me battle hardened for this. There was a reason why we did that, and it failed, and that's fine. Now I understand why we had to go through it. And so I've had these 2 episodes now of if it won't kill me, we're going to be fine. And so now that's kind of how I feel is bring on the challenges. We're going to figure out a way to crack through it and figure it out and be better coming out of it. We'll continue to have a great company.
Love it, Brad. It's all about that perspective. And, if you're not going to let it knock you down, then I think you learn quicker. I think you're more resilient. You learn faster and can incorporate lessons to move into the next piece. This is our buddy Chris East down in Texas. Yo, Chris. All right, Brad. The Dead had their deadheads. Gaga has her monsters. Kiss has the Kiss Army. What do you call Wasserstrom's tribe of ardent followers? Number 1. And 2, what do you take from the Dead on the passion they elicit from their fans and customers? Chris, always epic questions. And
yeah.
And Taylor has her Swifties. Christopher.
Of course, Taylor has her Swifties.
Of course.
So I want to come back to what Wasserstrom's ardent fans would be called. I'll let that marinate a little bit.
Okay.
Because I want to come up with something really sharp and witty and funny, but I don't know. I'm on the spot, so I don't know if I'll be able to.
That's okay.
Maybe I'll just call them the world's most smart people, right? The world's smartest people right there. That's what that tribe is called. The one thing about the Grateful Dead, they certainly knew how to make, and you could debate whether it was by plan or by just happenstance. Their fans are raving fans, right? At this point, the band is not together anymore, and yet they're still selling out arenas and stadiums and whatever. They were the first to let their fans record the shows, and they gave it out for free, and it turned out to be the greatest marketing genius thing ever in the pre-internet age, right? To be able to get their music out there.
Wow.
So I think if there's anything I learned from them, one is, you stay customer centric. Who are your clients? What do they want? And if what you're doing doesn't matter to them, they're not going to pay for it. So don't do it. Second piece, though, is don't be afraid to try something that's different, even if others are going to tell you, well, that's the dumbest thing ever. I know that they were told by the record company, the dumbest thing ever is to give away your music because people won't buy the records. I'm on record right now saying the greatest thing they ever did was let people record their shows, because people started trading those in between these album releases, and they passed them down to younger siblings, and it just spurred on a whole thing. And, I also like the fact that they never did the same thing twice, right? It was always different. Every show, every time they played a song, a different experience. So you never got bored. I'm never bored with them. That's not what I was listening to tonight when I was getting ready for this. I needed something a little bit quieter, a little bit more background chill. But
what were you listening tonight? Pregame. What was pregame for you?
Van Morrison.
Oh yeah.
Right.
A particular song?
No. I just added Pandora Radio, Van Morrison channel.
Van Morrison for me, when I was a kid, my dad he was a rep. He had a 4Runner, a red maroon 4Runner, sunroof. And he and my sister and I used to open that sunroof. He would blast Van Morrison, and we would all sing at the top of our lungs. That car and Van Morrison probably elicits more emotion in me than any other artist, because it always takes me back to those moments.
Yeah. So what I hear is your dad was a cooler music aficionado, because your dad liked Van Morrison. My dad's was Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond.
So, Neil Diamond is like backwards cool, right? Not really. He's so cheesy. You kind of go, he's cool. No.
That's great. He actually sang and spoke. I graduated with his son from Boulder, and the same year. So he was at my graduation, FYI. We're going to wrap it up soon. But Jeff Tyler, without opening up a secret kimono, how do you anticipate using AI effectively?
That's a great question.
It is a great question, Jeff. Look at you.
I don't think that the tools are ready yet, Jeff. I think they still make too many mistakes. So we're using it a little bit on things that are internal, nothing that is external facing the world yet. The term is hallucinate. They hallucinate too much still.
I appreciate the nuance there and thoughtfulness. I think we're all learning and diving in somehow to figure out how do we use it for ourselves, and can it serve customers as well to make the experience more efficient or whatever it might be. Okay, I guess I should have predicted that we would only get to like half the questions.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end with.
And I studied really hard for this test. I want you to know I studied really hard. You know, the walk-up songs I spent time on. I mean, all of this here.
We're going to go.
What do I do to chill out? What?
Here we go. Let's talk. If music is huge in your world. Music seems to be an important theme. Last time we talked, you were in your basement. I remember you, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, you had a playlist that had about 25,000 songs on it. Is that right? No.
It's got like 1900. It's called My Goat. It's the greatest songs of my life. My greatest of all time. Yes, specifically curated. It takes me through eras of my life, right? And you can see when I had a Led Zeppelin phase or the Doors or whatever. And then there's all the one-offs, these great one-off songs. None of them will make you sad. It's all up music that just takes me to good places.
Love it.
Yeah, that's another good residual of COVID right there.
When on the theme of music, Maureen and Joe, if you're watching, I don't remember if at the FNS Gala at the Four Seasons in Chicago, Saturday night of NRA, I don't recall if there are walk-up songs as award winners are coming to the stage. But should there be walk-up songs, what would yours be, Brad?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you there are. Okay. And I can tell you the time I discovered it, I went up to Joe afterwards. I said, did you purposely play Crazy Train for the facility of the year, which happened to be a mental institution that year? He said, absolutely, I did. So not every song has that kind of meaning, but a lot of them do. Yeah. And, you know, for me, I think the walk-up song is just something real basic that rocks, get the house going before I bring them all down with a long-winded speech. My song would be Thunderstruck by AC/DC.
Thunderstruck.
It's just got that great guitar opening, right? As I'm walking up there, because you don't get to the words. You don't have enough time. It's like 20, 30 seconds. So the Wasserstrom, love that. So, so I think it would be Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck. Well, the people who matter are listening. There are walk-up songs. So,
well, I'm going to tell Maureen and Joe they can't use that now. That's too easy. Joe has to come up with something unique.
If it's Crazy Train, I don't know. I'm just...
It won't be Crazy Train.
I love it. Yes, agreed. Best AC/DC. Too good. Great song. How do I get invited to that party? Jack says. This is so great. Brad used Black Keys Gold on the ceiling.
Wow, Stuart, you are on it. Yes, I did. I was walking up to become president of FIDA, and I had him play the Black Keys, Akron, Ohio band, Gold on the Ceiling.
Holy cow. Stuart.
How do you call that's incredible, Stuart. I'm not playing any memory games with Stuart.
There we go. Stuart, go get your PO. When you say something great, when you make a good comment, Brad gives POs out. So go get your PO from Brad. Here's our buddy Mitch Cohen with Middleby. Mitch, yo, brother. First of all, love Brad. But a serious question, as family dealerships continue to sell, just one today, how do you bring in the younger family members to understand the business and carry on the name?
It's a really, really excellent question. Yeah. Eric and I, between us, have 5 daughters. My youngest is the youngest of the 5 at 16. And so my 2 are still in high school for another month, I guess, month and a half. But they're not yet at a point where they know what they want to do. When it comes to Eric's 3, his oldest has graduated. She's living in Colorado. Yep. She's writing articles and doing some other things. His middle is still in college. She does not want to come to business. And the youngest, who will be who's on a semester abroad right now. She hasn't shown it. I think last I heard she wanted to be a film maker, script writer. So it's hard. It's really hard to get them interested. Plus, they see and absorb from me. It's not an easy business. It's a mature industry, right? That has growth that's about population growth, because that's how we eat, right? Some years it's better, some years it's worse, but the food complex in our country is only going to grow at the number of people in the country. So, because we all only have one mouth, one belly. So we're not going to eat a whole lot more just because we build more restaurants. So it's a hard industry. I don't know. I'm not sure yet if we have another generation coming in or not. Time will tell. It's a little bit too early. Ask me again in 5 years. But it's really hard. And two great family businesses came together today, and they're both good friends of mine. And I would wish, both Singer and HRS nothing but the best of luck. I'm very good friends with both of those families, and it's a really good fit, the two family businesses. But there is one significant family business that is now off the list, I guess you could say.
Sure. Thanks for the thoughtful answer, Brad, as always. I know
to quote my friend Eric Ellingson, family businesses rock. So the question is, how do you keep them going? I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
We're not quite there. Eric and I are both in our mid-50s. I'm younger than him, and I want that on record, so I just said it here in front of all of your listeners. So we have a little bit of time before we have to figure it out.
I love that you've got the time, and you continue to lean in. Melissa, can't wait for the next generation of women leaders from the Wasserstrom family. The boardroom oil paintings will be so lovely.
So Melissa, great. There's no oil paintings in my new building. None.
My favorite. Okay, we need to, we've got other questions. Brad, you're going to have to come on a third time at some point to answer the other questions.
Me one closer to the robe, the 5-timer robe.
There we go. The 5-timer.
And I want Steve Martin to present it to me. You figure out how to get that done.
Okay. I'm going to need some help from some industry friends, but I bet there's a way. I bet we can pull that off, actually. Is Steve Martin on Cameo? Or what's that app?
Oh, yeah, Cameo. I don't know. Yeah. He might be too big for Cameo.
He might be.
You could probably get Martin Short, though, if you can't get Steve Martin on Cameo. Martin Short probably does it.
We'll give everything we can. That would be awesome. Maybe, Maureen, we can get one of them to announce Brad for Dealer of the Year. I don't know. Listen, my favorite part of all of these conversations is to put the guest not in the hot seat, but in the a seat of just getting to listen for a moment and get to tell you what you mean to people whose lives you've affected. Brad, listen. I mean, your family, your organization means so much to our industry, and you mean so much to so many people. The way you are, the way you treat people, me included. I never write these, but I kind of wish I had now that I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to read a couple of these. I'm actually going to start with an Ellingson. Since you mentioned Eric a minute ago, I'm going to start with David, our buddy David Ellingson. Meeting Brad years ago was a bit intimidating because he was a Wasserstrom, one of the most venerated names in the industry. He immediately engaged with me as an equal peer, which at the time I certainly was not. He shared openly with me and connected with me and many others. That mentorship remains, but has also evolved into a friendship that I'm lucky to have. Brad's vision for the industry, his respect for all of the people participating in it, and his light-hearted sense of humor make him one of my favorite people in the industry. Too cool, David.
Love you, David.
Next is our buddy Paul Angrick.
Oh boy.
I call
this
Paul.
This could go several different ways.
It's all great. Paul did a great job. To talk about Brad Wasserstrom, you first must speak to the wonderful, successful family in which he comes from. A fourth-generation family member where the business started over 120 years ago, Brad's entire family tree has incredibly high moral and ethical standards and are completely grounded in the way they treat their work associates and their industry colleagues. Brad has evolved in my 7+ years at NextGen to be one of my closest friends, closest confidants in the industry, and I'm not surprised that his company has reached the high level of success under his leadership. He is a great leader and an even better person. Thanks, Paul.
Appreciate that, Paul.
Our buddy Joe Carbonara from FENS Magazine Zumba Group shared a couple words. I have a feeling, by the way, that Maureen and Joe are like texting right now, like, oh, we're coming up with a song. I think Maureen said she chooses the song. Oh, here we go.
She put her foot down.
Them.
Yes,
be aware.
absolutely.
Love it. I think it's going to be, I can't wait. I can't wait for that. Wasserstrom is now 122 years old and in its fourth generation of family leadership. And over the course of the company's history, there have been only two constants. Brad, I don't know if the power just went out. There you go. You're back. There have been only two constants, change and the Wasserstrom family. The company draws from its past to ensure that it has a future. Company leaders like Brad and Eric rely on its history dealing with major moments like Prohibition and 2 world wars to understand how to deal with modern challenges. By applying those past lessons, the company remains flexible, future-oriented, and always customer-centric. Wasserstrom does this while being honest and transparent with its customers and supply chain partners alike. Most of all, Wasserstrom understands that you win with people first. Yes, the company embraces new systems, technologies, and the like, but Wasserstrom knows that that's nothing but another tool in their associates' toolbox. Wasserstrom leaders are not content to rest on their laurels and continually seek ways to bring the company closer to its clients, which is why the company continues to thrive.
Sounds like Joe could have done this interview tonight. He hit it spot on.
He nailed it.
He even said you win with people.
He got it. Your message is being conveyed authentically. This will be a fun one. Our buddy Paul Bartelt wanted to say a few words. Formerly of Volrath, our buddy is now retired. He says, I recently finished binge watching The Crown TV series with my wife. It's part of what us retired guys do. A common theme throughout the series is the royalty and the system that they operate in versus the commoners, that no matter how intelligent and capable they may up the teeming masses. I appreciate the chance as a food service commoner to share some of my true feelings and thoughts about Brad W., food service royalty. I'm not going to touch on...
He's hardly a commoner.
That's what I wrote him back. I said, commoner, Paul, come on. You may not have been born in, but I don't know about that word. I'm not going to touch on Brad's weird Ohio State fetish. For an otherwise intelligent, classy person, I still can't fathom that misplaced obsession. 3 words spring to mind when thinking about Brad. The words are gentleman, intelligent, and ego. Gentleman. Brad is a true gentleman in the best sense of the word, both personally and professionally. A devoted son, husband, father, and friend. Professionally, he has always modeled gracious professionalism, always gracious, polite, even when being direct, working to develop win-win partnerships, and above all, 100% honest and ethical. All values that seem to be in short supply these days. Intelligent. Perhaps it's a fault of mine, but I divide people into 2 groups. People I enjoy and people that I enjoy who have true intelligence, well-informed and thoughtful conversations with. Brad falls into the latter group, and I always enjoy our ability to have wide-ranging conversation and debate with a bit of humor thrown in that really challenge me. Ego. ego springs to my mind, not in the usual sense of how the word is used and is thought of. And we have plenty of examples of that in our world. But in terms of Brad's ego strength, in terms of understanding and being 100% comfortable with who he is, what he believes, what his values are, and the way he chooses to live his life. His clarity and ego strength around these dimensions are truly a great example of what we should all strive for. You the man, Paul. Lastly, I'm going to share from our friend Steve Spittle, of course, with Middleby and current NAFM president. Yo, Steve. It would be natural for me to like Brad, given we are both Columbus, Ohio natives and both fans of the Ohio State University's football team. However, as I've known Brad for almost 20 years now, my respect for him fundamentally has come from two distinct areas. The first is what he has done in transforming the Wasserstrom company. I think one of the hardest things to do that we see time and time again in our industry is to evolve family companies after several generations. More times than not, as future generations come into the business, they become complacent and rely more on their last name versus truly trying to move the company forward. The exact opposite has happened in Brad's case. He has built upon the success of his dad, Rodney, and the generations before him, all while finding and developing a leadership team that is strategic and takes care of their customers. He has not been afraid to challenge his own company status quo. And because of that, I can say without question that the best days of the Wasserstrom company are still ahead because of Brad's leadership and his team around him. And secondly, and more importantly, one of the things I enjoy and respect about Brad is the importance he places of his family in his life. He will always go out of the way and take time as we talk to ask about my wife, Jamie, and how my kids are doing. It's always sincere and heartfelt. And in those family discussions, he shares stories of his daughters and what they have going on as a family, including sending me pictures from a Hawaiian beach when I'm sitting in a meeting in Chicago.
It was his birthday. It was his birthday, so I felt like I had to send him, I want to make sure he knew he was being thought of half a world away.
That's pretty cool, Brad. I know that he's incredibly proud of both his daughters and his wife, Julie. Brad has set a great example for all of us as business leaders in balancing the importance of family while continuing to grow his company. Brad is a great advocate for our industry, his employees, his family, and I'm very fortunate to call him a customer, and I'm privileged and honored to call him my friend.
Wow. I'm touched by all of those. Thank you. I didn't expect any of that. Really, truly. I'm just a guy trying to sell a couple spoons, forks, fryers, refrigerators.
Well, that's the cool thing, man, is that you're out there trying to do good, trying to grow your business and your team. And whether you know it or not, you just inherently live a life of caring for people, asking questions that show them that you care about them, and investing in them and their families. And Brad, it's a part of what makes you so special, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's kind of easy. I just kind of believe you got to leave the world, try to leave the world a better place than when you came into it.
Yeah. And
the only way to do that is you treat people you want to be the way you want to be treated. And you just try to always do things the right way. You asked some other questions we didn't get to, but the one that you asked about was, how do you define success?
Yep.
And I just said, because I just said this, it reminds me of that question. I just said, whether it's personally or professionally, or what we're doing, is it driving towards making the world a better place, and will we be respected for it? If the answer to both of those is yes, it doesn't matter what the other measurements are. To me, that's a success. And everything else will follow, right? And if you treat clients with respect and you're just trying to make their world a little bit better, service, price, whatever it is, they'll follow. Don't worry about the rest of it. It's all just minutia. It'll follow, and just that's kind of how I do it. It's kind of how I live it.
You talked about your team of your continuous improvement team, always finding ways to make your organization better for one another, for your customers. And Brad, you just live life that way, trying to make a difference. And I think it's wonderful. This is our friend Deirdre Flynn. Great conversation. Thank you, Jason and Brad. Looking forward to conversation number 3. That will be a blast. Listen.
Hey, if everyone out there wants a conversation number 3, hit the like button below, right below this bar right here. Hit the like button and Jason will get to it. And maybe this time will be less than 1,257 days, Jason.
We'll try to shoot for less than 3-ish years, Brad, or 4 years, whatever it's been. Listen, for all those watching, there's so many themes tonight. I think it's about the people. If there were a theme I was going to pull away from our conversation with Brad, it's always about the people. And I look at that in so many ways. We talk all the time about we're the sum of the people we surround ourselves with. Brad clearly has surrounded himself both in people whom we've read from tonight, from his family, from his team members and his organization. He's surrounded himself with incredible people, the people he's connected with, he's built relationships with, and they're a part of making him who he is, and vice versa, that we become the people we're around. And so if you find yourself in a position where you're wondering, gosh, is there better available to me because you're wondering about those people, then the answer is yes. The answer is obviously yes. You're looking at one of those people now, and so many others like him. I think also in terms of what we do, defining success, it always comes back to this. Every leader talks about making a difference. We all want to be a part of something meaningful. We all want to be a part of something big. Every single human, I believe, wants to leave the world having said they've contributed in a positive way to the lives of others. And it's something that when we get up in the morning and we know we're doing that, we can feel it. I think oftentimes people sometimes feel like, am I really doing anything to contribute in the world? And oftentimes there's this, just kind of this dullness in terms of what we're doing. But if you know that what you're doing, whether it's in terms of your actual craft or your career or the way in which you're doing your career, there's so many ways to find meaning and value just leaning in a little bit and looking at it. Maureen, great to see you. Listen, for all of you, tons of nuggets from Brad. Lean in. If you need to listen to this again, take some things from it. Take some notes. Find a moment or two that his story affected yours in some way. We always offer this to people. We're all in different areas of our lives right now, right? You might be riding high. Brad and Eric and team, their dealer of the year. They got some fun things going on. It's wonderful. But he talked about challenges. And I don't know where you're at right now. Maybe you're in a moment of challenge, but if you are, you keep plugging away. Brad talked about the challenge where there was a decision made with a company that didn't work out. And another thing, times with layoffs and COVID and all of these things that he had and we all had. And sometimes in those moments of challenge, it's hard to see the light. It's hard to realize and remember, you know what, I can be riding high again and work my way through this. You just keep going. If you need support, you can always reach out in the power plant. You can always connect with me. We've got so many people happy to listen. On our website, there are tons of resources as well, whether it's some mental health support, whether it's just coaching and growth and development, tons of resources for you to go to start leaning into. And then certainly at future events where we'll all be at, come say hi, come find other people. We can connect you in the right places. I'll get off my pedestal. But listen, we're here for you together. We continue to do it together, and know that. I hope you have a great night. Again, thank you to Zumba, Maureen, FENS. Thanks to Craven team. Brad, you're an awesome guest as always.
Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the effort you put in to do these. I know it's not something you pull together very quickly or easily. And I greatly appreciate you drumming up some people to make up some words about me that were very kind. Thank you.
You got it, brother. I'm glad we get to do this together as colleagues and friends. And it's really meaningful that we get to. Listen, Power Plant Network, have a wonderful night. We'll say, way to go. Love it. Thanks to both of you. Thanks for joining us. Great company. We do a lot of work with them. I don't know who that was. Let's just see. Oh, Ben. Ben calling in Florida. Love it. Everybody, have a wonderful night. We'll see you soon.